Hey Sarah, Jasmine here. I'm going to do a quick video for you to go over your Mia character. I love her, by the way. I always smile when I see her, and yeah. So, I want to give you some quick feedback. Overall, my first impression was that she's feeling a little hot right here. Like right here. Let me see if I can draw on this for you. Yep. Like right here, especially on the skin. And my first question to you is your light rig. If your key light is just at like an intensity of 1, then I think we need to maybe revisit this shader here because it's blowing out a little bit too quickly. If your key light is like above 1, if it's like a crazy intensity, then maybe we'll have to look at that. But that's my first thing. Like, you want to watch out when you're doing these texture tests for these specific things, because if you find it, the big thing is like when you find out a shader is maybe reacting too sensitively to light, it's going to cause you problems in the long run when you're lighting your shot, and you're going to have to deal with balancing different lights if shaders are reacting different ways. So this is a great example of why these tests are so good, because it will save you time in the long run of adjusting and maybe even doing light linking to make sure all your shaders are working well. So that's the first thing I'd say. Another thing is, I love that you're adding all this texture, let's say, to the bunny ears, but I think the scale, it's a combination of, let's scroll down here, of the scale of the texture, and also there's probably a little bit too much bump on it or displacement that is feeling not like soft, but a little bit too hard. So I think decreasing the bump value, and also especially in the white area, increasing the scale of it. That's another thing with texturing that I also battle with, is the scale, right? To how like it makes such a big difference, and it's just like it takes practice to kind of train your eye. And speaking of scale, I also feel like there's the scale of the texture on the shirt might be a little bit large too, and it should be a little bit more subtle. And I would also think about subduing the saturation a little bit on the shirt. And the only reason I just say that is because let me get rid of that. Is when I first see it, it's a beautiful color. The one thing is it's very overpowering in some ways. And I was thinking it could be a little bit nicer to have it more of like the value of the boots. Not the color, but just like tone it down just slightly, so it's a little less distracting. The other thing that I was noticing is I saw you added the displacement here, and I think that's really great. I would say, I don't know, I'm kind of back and forth with this. I was going to say to bring it down a little, but I actually don't mind it now that I'm looking at it. I think it's pretty good. One thing, okay, this is where it's awesome, like once you get the baseline, to start adding in more details, is if you think about, it's almost like, say I hesitate, because it's kind of building in a little bit of shaping, but we're not doing that. It's more like, think about a worn piece of clothing, right? Like, this all looks so brand new. And I think that's one of the things in CG, especially when we're building materials, is everything by default, like when you first build it, it's like this brand new shiny material, but it's not realistic, right? If you look around just right now at any material in your space, you'll see that there's blemishes, there's discoloration. So I was thinking, like, here it's like this perfect skirt, right? Wouldn't it be great if it's just like a little bit like a little bit darker here where it hits the seam? Just thinking about, the wear of it, maybe it gets a little bit, more washed out here. Just like adding those little details since you've gone through and done the texture work to really like give it that extra level of care. And that actually brings me down to here, your boots, which I think, let's see, or I love that you added this detail, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I think you can go further. Like, yeah, you're adding the blemishes here, but it's the same color. Like I would expect if it's dirt, then some levels will be like a little bit darker brown, or you know, that dark color, and some would be lighter. And just make sure, I think you have it. Just want to make sure you're not having, make sure that speck, you have a mat for the speck so the dirt areas aren't getting that super highlight thing. But now that you have the base here, go even further and keep on adding more detail, more grunge. Like you added, you know, the dirt here, but honestly, like her boots are still looking pretty pristine other than these spots. So think about like, you know, look at worn boots and see the little details there and add it, like scratch marks and stuff really help, those scratch mats. Things like that that really bring it to the next level, and it's like, it feels like really, you know, authentic and real, and you could feel the dirt on her boots, and it doesn't feel as computer generated. And yeah, I'm taking a look, and everything else like the same thing. The hair, I love the hair color. It really stands out. You could like, you know, even paint in more like variation here, just give it more shaping. And one thing I will say is, so I'm looking at your subsurface, and it might be the shader, because like even here, I love that you're getting that kind of subsurface here and here, but I think it's going a little too far. She's feeling a little bit too thin, if that's the word. So I think you might want to like bring it back a little, because if you look at a person's the translucency in the person's ear and like the nose area, you probably wouldn't get it as much as we're seeing here, and that might be the reason why this is blowing out so much too. So that could solve both problems. And the other thing that I will say, when this is more an aesthetic thing, especially when you do a turntable of this, is that you want to watch out for these double shadows. So you have the shadow here, the softer shadow from the key, but then you seem like you have, it looks like probably the rim light shadow that is coming right here, and this is what I'm talking about, the shadow. You want to eliminate that for the turntable. You definitely just want like one clean shadow and no double set shadows in there. And you can do that a couple of ways. You know, you can soften the light here, but I wouldn't soften it too much. That rim could probably go down a little, but the easiest way for a turntable, honestly, is to unlight link it to the ground. That's the joy of, you know, CG. You can control it by just clicking a button and unlinking it, because we just want one clear shadow and no like multiple shadows going on. Okay, I think that's it. I think she's looking awesome. I really encourage you to go in and take a look at the notes that I gave you and make it even dirtier. I love it. I say that because like that's my favorite part about materials, is like just keep on going in, layering it. When you think, you know, I do the base clean, the clean pass, and then that's when you have fun in like adding the little details that really will help it stand out once you get to lighting too. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know, and I can't wait to see your updates. Happy lighting!